One of the most common problems with the toilet is a leaky fill valve, and there's no need to call a professional plumber for this. It's an incredibly simple job to do, and really anybody can do it. Now before I replace the fill valve on this particular toilet, let me go ahead and turn the water off, drain the tank, show you how it works, and explain why I actually have to replace it. Toilets are incredibly simple the way that they work, and really there's only two main components inside the tank of the toilet: the fill valve and the flush valve. Now the flush valve is commonly just referred to as the flapper. And the way that this works is if there's water inside the tank, when you press the handle on the toilet, it will open up the flapper, allowing water to go from the tank down into the bowl below. As the water level drops, so does this float arm. It will drop and release pressure up here on the fill valve, which allows water to go from the supply line below up the fill valve and filling inside the tank of the toilet. The way that it is shut off is this float valve. As the water level rises, it will rise, creating pressure inside this fill valve right here, shutting the water off. My problem is that this particular fill valve does not shut off. It still leaks around the seam, so I'm just going to go ahead and replace this entire fill valve. It's pretty much impossible to do this without getting water on the floor, so I'm going to go ahead and put a towel down below the supply line before I disconnect it from the toilet. You should be able to remove the supply line by your hand only, but if it is too tight, you can use a pair of adjustable pliers. Now, the nut on the bottom side of the fill valve, which attaches the fill valve to the tank itself, most likely you will have to use a pair of adjustable pliers to remove it. What I'm replacing it with is a universal fill valve. It has the float on the shaft of the fill valve itself instead of on an arm. Comes with a rubber hose, a rubber washer, the retaining nut, and a clip if needed for this particular rubber hose. Before we install this in the tank, we do have to put the rubber washer on the bottom of the threads. This will seal the bottom of the tank. Now you can tighten the retaining nut on the bottom and attach the supply line. This tube gets connected to the fill valve, and what this does is it allows water to flow from the fill valve right down into the bowl to fill it back up after you flush. But I'm not going to reuse this particular hose. I'm actually going to use the hose that came with the fill valve that I just put in. I've adjusted the height of the fill valve so that this hose is about 1 inch higher than this overflow tube. Now I can turn the water on and adjust the final height of the water as needed. Now this actually just happened to be set for the perfect height the very first time. You want the water level to be about 1/2 inch lower than this overflow tube. But if you have to adjust the height, all you have to do with these is twist this little knob and it will raise or lower this particular float. As you can see, if I push down on it, it allows more water to go through. So as long as this raises up high enough to shut the water off and the water level is about 1/2 inch lower than the top of this overflow tube, then you're good to go. I've probably replaced over 100 of these toilet fill valves, and while I do have a lot of experience doing it, you don't have to have any experience to do this. It's incredibly easy to do, and anybody can do it. It's literally just a retaining nut and a supply line down below that. Now, I'm obviously not the only person who's ever done this before, so if you have done this and learned any tips, tricks, or suggestions along the way, please leave them in the comments section below. Doing so will greatly help out the next person and help grow this Home and Garden for Mere Mortals community, which is really all about helping everybody else out there. You don't always have to hire a professional to get things done around your house. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next project.